I want to start with a word of caution because you can damage the AC system in your vehicle, especially if you over pressurize it. So if you don't have a reasonable understanding of what you're getting into, don't even attempt this. Take it to a professional and let them do it. Recharging the AC system in a 2005 Toyota Highlander that has a V6 3.3 liter engine. It's the 3MZ FE engine, and we're going to connect to the AC system by way of the low pressure port that's back there in the back left corner of the engine compartment. See that orange piece of duct tape? That is on the cap that is screwed on to the low pressure port. Now the hose and gauge that I'm going to be using are AC Pro, that's the brand, and I bought this several years ago, but the refrigerant I'm going to be using is Walmart's brand. It is Super Tech. And even though this is an AC Pro gauge, it will work with the Walmart refrigerant. Just screw the can on and you're ready to go. To connect this fitting to the low pressure port, you take the cap off the port, pull back on this collar, you push it onto the port, and as you're pushing it on, you release the collar and it should snap on. And then you give it a few tugs to make sure it's on securely. Put that fitting over the port, pull back the collar like I mentioned earlier, push it on, release the collar, give it a good pull, and now that is on securely. This sticker on the underside of my hood confirms I need 134A, and the maximum amount if my system's completely empty is 1.54 pounds. Now knowing that there are 16 ounces in a pound and that I need a maximum of 1.54 pounds, the most I can put in is 24.64 ounces. And that's if it's completely empty. So I have 2 full cans. Each one of the cans is supposed to have 12 ounces of refrigerant inside. Total weight is 15 ounces, which means the can itself weighs 3 ounces. Let's try this one. This one's 14.9. And once I'm finished, we can determine how much refrigerant I put in by weighing these cans again at the end. So that's what we'll do. Now, one thing I'm going to be looking for, and you need to look as well, is you need to be looking at the clutch on your compressor. That silver mark is on the clutch on my compressor. And when I turn the AC on, initially that clutch is not going to be spinning because there's a safety mechanism built into the compressor that shuts off the clutch when it gets low on refrigerant. So I'm going to have to add refrigerant. Eventually that clutch will spin and it will start cooling inside. So that we know where we're starting, my engine is running, my AC is on, it's set to the coldest temperature. I'm on low speed right now. When I start adding refrigerant, I'm going to turn that to high speed. And I have a temperature gauge in the vent. We're at 73.4 degrees and now 0.8. So it's actually getting warmer even though the AC is on. So I'm going to cut the speed up to high. And high speed's not working. Oh, there it goes. Like I mentioned a minute ago, even though my AC is turned on, my compressor clutch is not engaged because that mark is not moving. That's because it's low on refrigerant. But that's going to change when I add some. And with the engine running and the AC turned on, here's the reading on my gauge. I want that needle to be up in the green. Shake the can first, you squeeze the trigger, turn between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock, continue to shake the can. And I just heard my compressor engage, so let me stop this for a second. And you can see that compressor clutch is spinning. So I barely added any refrigerant at all, and that clutch engaged, so that's a good sign. So I'm going to continue between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Every couple of seconds I'm going to turn the can. And this could take anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes per can. I'm going to release the trigger and check the pressure. And we're getting close to the green, so that's a good sign. I've just about put 1 full can in. I want to show you one thing. When the compressor kicks off, like it just did, see the needle kick up to the right? That's not an accurate reading. Now the compressor kicked back on. You want to look at your reading while the compressor is kicked on, not when it kicks off. Let's watch it again. When that compressor kicks off, the pressure's going to jump. I do not have it squeezed right now. See, compressor kicked off, needle jumped up. Compressor kicked on, needle went back down. While the compressor is running, that's when you want to take the reading. I'm going to add some more. I've just about got this whole can empty. I'm pretty well into the green now. Do not have the trigger squeezed. This can's empty. Going back inside to check the temperature after adding 1 can. And we're at 43.3 degrees. So that's about a 30-degree temperature drop. We'll cut it down to low. And that temperature should drop even farther. And I'm good with 41 degrees. So this is the one I just used. This is the other full one. Let's see if this is the 15 or 14.9. This is the 14.9. So this was the 15-ounce can, and if there was 12 ounces of refrigerant in here and I just put it in the car, this should weigh 3 ounces. And it does, exactly 3 ounces. So I put 12 ounces of refrigerant into a system that holds a little over 24 maximum. So my system was about half full. To get the fitting off the low pressure port, you just do the opposite. You pull on that collar and it pops right off, and then screw your cap back on. And one thing I did not mention earlier is that in addition to a low pressure port, you're also going to see in your engine a high pressure port. See the H on top? That signifies high pressure. And you do not want to connect to the high pressure port, but you actually cannot do that because this fitting, it will not fit onto the high pressure port. That port is a larger diameter and this will not snap on. So you really cannot make a mistake. You just have to find the low pressure port. And underneath that piece of tape, there's an L on the cap. And most cars have an L and an H on the high and low pressure ports. Now looking at the gauge, and this ties into what I said starting out the video about overpressurizing your system. At no point while I was adding that 1 can of refrigerant did the needle enter into the yellow or the red. And think about it like a stoplight. Green is good, yellow is a warning, red is stop. My needle stopped right at the edge of the yellow and the green, and that was while the compressor was kicked off. When the compressor kicked on, the arrow dropped down, I guess about a quarter of the way into the green. And that gave me 41.7, I believe, coming out of the vents. Fahrenheit. That's about as cold as my AC gets, and that was only getting a little way into the green. So don't feel like you have to add so much refrigerant that you get it all the way to the edge of the green, because then you run the risk of overpressurizing your system. Last thing, make sure you know the capacity of your system so that you do not exceed it. Look for the sticker underneath the hood or find the information online. That's it. Thanks for watching.